At the family reunion, my grandson whispered, "Grandma, you're in danger." It wasn't supposed to be like this. A warm Sunday afternoon, the smell of sizzling barbecue drifting through the air, kids running around, the sound of laughter echoing off the big oak tree where we always gather. But that day, something felt off. Something in the air wasn't right. And that moment, when Jack whispered those words to me, would change everything. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment my entire family would fall apart. It was supposed to be the perfect family reunion, the kind of reunion where everyone comes together to celebrate a shared history, old stories, good food, and the familiar faces of relatives you only see once or twice a year. We were at Mabel's family farm in Eagle Creek, Georgia, our family's heart. Mabel had passed years ago, but her legacy, the farm, and the memories remained. My sister Carol and my brother Ben were already there, catching up over beers by the barn. The kids were playing in the yard, Jack, my grandson, running around with his cousins, laughing. It should have been the perfect picture of family life. But as the sun started setting, something began to feel wrong. You know that feeling? That tiny twinge in your gut that makes you question whether it's all too good to be true? Yeah, that's how I felt. It was like a storm was coming, but no one could see it yet. There's a lot of people at these reunions, a lot of history, but I'm going to focus on a few. First, there's Jack, my 12-year-old grandson. He's a smart kid. Too smart, sometimes. Jack is one of those kids who doesn't miss a thing. He picks up on things others overlook, and when he whispered those words to me, it sent a chill down my spine. "Grandma, you're in danger." Those words echoed in my mind even as we kept laughing and talking. Then there's Aunt Carol, my younger sister, who's always the life of the party. She has this way of lightening the mood, making everyone feel like everything is fine. But over the years, I've noticed she's been hiding something. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's always been something about Carol that feels off. Uncle Ben, on the other hand, is the quiet one. He's a man of few words, but when he speaks, people listen. There's a reason for that. Ben had always been the strong, silent protector of our family, but something about him was different this year. He was distracted, shifty almost. And then there's cousin Lisa. Sharp, successful, and a bit of a know-it-all. She's been living in the city for years, a high-powered attorney, but she always comes back to the farm for these reunions. But lately, Lisa's been acting strangely. At first I tried to ignore it. I thought it was just nerves, maybe a little bit of overthinking. But as the evening went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Carol was acting distant, her usual charm replaced with a coldness I couldn't understand. Uncle Ben was more withdrawn than usual, his face tense, as if he was carrying some heavy burden. And Lisa, she kept glancing at her phone, tapping out messages that she quickly hid when anyone looked her way. I watched Jack run off with the other kids, my protective instincts kicking in. But then, as the sun dipped lower and the laughter grew louder, that was when Jack stopped running and pulled me aside. "Grandma, you're in danger." He whispered it so quietly, I almost thought I had imagined it, but I didn't. I didn't imagine it. I looked at him, his big brown eyes staring at me, so serious, like he knew something I didn't. I laughed it off, of course. What else could I do? "Danger?" I smiled, ruffling his hair. "What kind of danger?" Jack just shook his head, his face pale. "He can't say, Grandma, but you need to be careful." I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. You know that feeling when something small sticks with you? It's like a pebble in your shoe. You can't ignore it. I couldn't ignore it. So here's where I want to know what you think. Have you ever had a moment like that? Something small, something someone said and it just stuck with you? When everything seemed fine, but deep down you just knew something was wrong? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Did you ignore the warning signs, or did you trust your gut? Trust me, this is only the beginning, and things are about to get a lot crazier. The night went on. The food was eaten, the drinks flowed, and the kids ran around chasing fireflies. But I couldn't stop thinking about Jack's words. As I walked back to the porch to sit down, I noticed something that made my heart race. Ben, my brother, was standing by the old barn, talking to someone in hushed tones. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but it didn't feel right. It felt secretive. This was my brother, the one who was supposed to be my rock, and yet here he was, slipping away from the group, hiding something. I went inside to grab a drink, but my mind was all over the place. Jack's warning, Ben's secret conversation, Carol's coldness, Lisa's evasions. All these little things started to piece together, and that's when I realized something. This reunion wasn't just about family anymore. Something bigger was happening, and I had no idea how deep it went. But before I could even make sense of it, I heard a loud crash from outside, a scream. I ran outside, my heart pounding in my chest. It was Jack. He was standing there, pointing at something, his eyes wide with fear, his voice trembling. "Grandma, you're in danger." Those words were all he said, but they've haunted me ever since. I couldn't stop thinking about Jack's whisper. The rest of the evening went on like nothing had happened, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The laughter, the music, the chatter, it all felt distant, as if I was watching someone else's life play out from behind a foggy window. Every time I looked at Jack, my heart raced, and every time I looked at my family, my gut twisted. Why had he said that? "You're in danger." It sounded so simple, yet there was a weight to those words. His serious face, his wide eyes, they weren't playing. My mind replayed the moment over and over again, trying to find some logical explanation, but there was none. I tried to brush it off, I really did. Maybe it was just a kid's wild imagination, maybe a bit of overreaction, but then why was my body reacting like it was something much bigger? I tried to focus on the evening, but my attention kept drifting. I watched Ben standing off to the side with that distant look on his face. I looked at Carol, who was smiling too brightly as though everything was perfect. And then there was Lisa, who had barely spoken all night, more preoccupied with her phone than with anyone else. Something was off, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. It wasn't just Jack's words, it was everything else that had started to unravel around me. The night had slipped into a haze, a blur of faces and voices, but I couldn't get rid of the gnawing sensation in my chest. I kept glancing at the adults in the room, their casual conversations masking something deeper. And Jack kept coming to me, tugging at my sleeve, staring at me like he was waiting for me to understand. At one point, as the evening wound down and the others were getting ready to leave, Jack grabbed my hand and pulled me to the back of the house, away from the party. "Grandma?" he said again, his voice trembling. "They're not who you think they are." My blood ran cold. The words didn't make sense. Not fully, but the way he said them, they hit like a punch to the stomach. "What do you mean, Jack?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He shook his head, his eyes welling up with tears. "I can't say, but you need to listen to me. You're not safe here." At that moment, I felt completely lost. My mind was racing. I couldn't think straight. Jack, my innocent little boy, was scared, so scared that he couldn't even finish a sentence without fear gripping his voice. I knelt down to his level, trying to stay calm, but I could feel the panic bubbling inside of me. "Jack, what's going on? What aren't you telling me?" I asked, but all he could do was look over his shoulder nervously, like someone was watching us. "Don't trust anyone," he whispered, "not even the ones you love." I felt a chill sweep through me. My heart started pounding in my chest. My thoughts were spinning. What could be so terrible that my grandson was warning me? Who was he trying to protect me from? My head swirled with confusion. Was this some kind of sick joke, or was there something more sinister going on? The night seemed to stretch on forever after that. I tried to play it off, tried to continue being the fun grandma, the one who listened to everyone's stories and jokes, but the tension in my chest never loosened. Jack's words haunted me, his warning echoing in the back of my mind. Then, as if the universe was piling on, I got a message, a text from an unknown number. "You have no idea what's coming. It's already too late. Leave while you still can." My heart stopped. Who sent this? How did they know about the reunion? Was it a prank? My hands shook as I stared at the message, trying to process it, but my gut told me it wasn't a joke. It felt like a threat, a real one. I looked at my phone screen, my stomach dropping. The message seemed to know something I didn't. Was someone out to get me? Or was this just a coincidence? I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. But who could I trust? The family was here, all gathered in one place. I watched them more closely now, studying their faces, their behavior. Ben kept looking at his phone like he was expecting something, his face tense whenever anyone mentioned the farm. Carol kept laughing a little too loud, her smile a little too wide. And then there was Lisa, who had barely spoken all night, more preoccupied with her phone than with anyone else. Something was off, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I excused myself and went outside to get some fresh air, trying to clear my mind. But even outside, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I turned around quickly, half expecting someone to be standing there, lurking in the shadows. But it was only the cool breeze and the faint sounds of crickets in the distance. I stood there, alone, looking at the stars above me. The night felt oppressive, like it was closing in around me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing thoughts, but the message on my phone still echoed in my mind. It's already too late. And then there was Jack's warning. What was happening here? Was I really in danger, or was this all just my overactive imagination? Just as I was starting to calm down, the door to the house creaked open. I turned to see Lisa stepping outside, her expression serious. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice low. I wasn't sure how to respond. What could I say? "Oh, yeah, just trying to clear my mind after a cryptic text and a warning from my grandson that I'm in danger." Instead, I forced a smile and nodded. "Just needed a minute, you know? It's been a long day." Lisa hesitated, her gaze lingering on me a little too long, as if she was weighing something in her mind. "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here, okay?" she said, her voice soft, almost too soft. And then, just like that, she turned and walked back inside. But I wasn't fooled. Something wasn't right. I wasn't sure what Lisa knew or what she was hiding, but something told me I needed to keep my distance. I watched her disappear into the house, the door closing behind her with a soft click. I stood there for a few more moments, my mind swirling with doubts and suspicions. The message, Jack's warning, Lisa's odd behavior, Ben's secrecy. Everything pointed to something darker. And just as I turned to head back inside, I caught sight of something that made my heart skip a beat. In the window, just above the kitchen sink, I saw a shadow. It was barely visible, just a silhouette, but it was there, watching me. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Who was that? Was someone inside the house? Had they been watching me this whole time? I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could only stare at that shadow, feeling the weight of fear press down on my chest. I'm not sure what to do anymore. But one thing is certain. The danger that I'd been warned about, it was already here. What do you think? Who is behind all of this? Do you think Jack's warning was real, or is there something else going on here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And make sure to subscribe. The next chapter is going to reveal even more shocking twists. You don't want to miss it. I knew I couldn't ignore Jack's warning anymore. But what I didn't expect was the message I found hidden in plain sight. It had been a long night, and the uneasy feeling only grew as the hours passed. The family had retreated to their separate corners of the house, some to the living room, some to the kitchen. I tried to join in, tried to be present, but every glance, every laugh, every conversation felt like it was happening in a different world, a world where I didn't belong, and where something I couldn't yet see was brewing beneath the surface. It wasn't just Jack's warning anymore. It was everything around me, the small things, the things I could no longer ignore. The way Carol kept looking at her phone with a sense of urgency. The way Ben kept glancing out the window like he was waiting for someone. Lisa's sudden offhand remarks about the farm, almost as if she was trying to throw me off. The cracks in their smiles that seemed just a little too wide, a little too forced. At that moment, I realized something. I wasn't just imagining things. There was something wrong here. Something deeper, and I didn't know who to trust anymore. I tried to shake it off, but the tension weighed on me, a constant pressure on my chest. It felt like I was walking on a tightrope, and one wrong move could send me tumbling into a world of secrets I wasn't ready to face. I needed to clear my head. I stepped outside for some fresh air, away from the prying eyes and hushed voices inside. The night had grown cold, and the stars above twinkled like 1,000 watchful eyes. But I felt more alone than I had in a long time. The message on my phone still lingered in my mind. It's already too late. Leave while you still can. Who sent it? How did they know I was at the reunion? Was it someone from the family? Or was there someone else involved? My heart raced as I reread the message, hoping to find some clue, something that would explain it. But there was nothing. Just a simple, chilling sentence. I paced back and forth, my mind trying to make sense of it all. How had everything gotten so complicated so quickly? The family that had always been my refuge was starting to feel like a house of cards, ready to collapse with the slightest push. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I couldn't let fear control me. Not now. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was already in too deep. Whoever had sent that message, whoever was behind this, it wasn't just a prank. This was real. And the danger Jack had warned me about, it was right here, closer than I realized. Just as I was about to go back inside, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unfamiliar number. Hesitant, I answered. Hello? My voice was shaky, betraying my nerves. The person on the other end didn't say anything at first. There was only heavy breathing. I tightened my grip on the phone. Who is this? I demanded, trying to steady my voice. A whisper finally came through. Sarah, you don't know who to trust. They're all in on it. I felt the blood drain from my face. What do you mean? Who is this? I asked, my voice rising with fear. The line went dead. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. I stood there for a moment, frozen. My mind raced and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. This couldn't be real, could it? Was someone trying to mess with me? Or was there a genuine threat? And who was behind it? The person on the phone hadn't said much, but their words were enough to rattle me to my core. Everyone's in on it. What did that mean? Who was involved? And more importantly, why was I the one being targeted? I needed answers. The feeling of being watched, being manipulated, grew stronger by the minute. I had to get to the bottom of this, and I couldn't do it alone. But who could I trust? Who in this house wasn't hiding something? I went back inside, my mind racing. I saw Carol in the kitchen, talking to Ben in low tones. Carol's smile faltered when I saw her, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by her usual bright demeanor. But I wasn't fooled. I could see it. The flicker in her eyes, the subtle tension in her shoulders. She knew something. She had to. But Ben, on the other hand, was staring out the window, his eyes focused, not on the view, but on something outside. And I followed his gaze and saw nothing but the dark night stretching out before us. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was waiting for something, or someone. And then there was Lisa, who had barely spoken since Jack's warning. She was now sitting in the living room, flicking through her phone with a blank stare. I had to act. I couldn't just sit there, pretending everything was fine. Whatever was going on, it was bigger than all of us. And I was beginning to think that the reunion wasn't about reconnecting anymore. It was about survival. I made up my mind. I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to confront someone. But who? Who could I trust? Who would give me the answers I was desperately seeking? I decided to start with Lisa. She had always been the sharp one, the one who had all the answers. If anyone knew what was really going on, it was her. I found her alone in the living room, still absorbed in her phone. I stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her, gathering my courage. Lisa, I called, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering in my chest. We need to talk. She looked up, startled, but quickly masked her reaction with a smile. What's up, Sarah? I walked toward her, sitting across from her. No more games, Lisa. I need to know what's going on. You've been acting strange all night, and I know you're hiding something. Her eyes flickered, and for a split second, I saw something in them. Fear? Guilt? But then it was gone. replaced by a calmness that seemed almost rehearsed. "I'm not hiding anything, Sarah. You're just overthinking things. It's a family reunion, that's all." I leaned in, my voice low. "Don't lie to me. Something's going on here, and I want to know the truth. Who's behind all of this? Who sent me that message?" Her eyes widened for just a moment, and I knew I had hit a nerve. But before she could respond, there was a loud crash in the kitchen. I jumped to my feet, my heart leaping into my throat. Without thinking, I rushed toward the sound. The kitchen light flickered overhead, casting long shadows that seemed to move on their own. When I stepped inside, my breath caught in my chest. The kitchen was in chaos. The cabinet doors were wide open, the dishes scattered on the floor. But that wasn't what had me frozen in place. It was the note, torn and half hidden behind a jar on the counter. I reached for it with trembling hands, my pulse racing. The handwriting was messy, hurried, and the words sent a chill down my spine. "You've been warned. There's no going back now." This is getting crazier by the minute, and I don't know who to trust anymore. Who do you think is behind all of this? What should Sarah do next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe. The next chapter reveals more shocking secrets, and you won't want to miss a single second. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The pieces were all there, but no one had the courage to put them together. Until now. The note, the phone call, Jack's warning, all of it was starting to make sense in a way that terrified me. But there was still something I couldn't grasp. Everyone in my family seemed so normal, so safe. How could they all be involved in something so dark? I had to dig deeper. No more excuses, no more pretending. I couldn't keep living in denial about what was happening in front of me. Every glance, every whispered word, every tense silence, it all pointed to one thing. There were secrets buried in this house, secrets that were slowly crawling out from the shadows. I decided it was time to confront someone who might know more than they were letting on. Lisa seemed like the perfect person to start with. I had no idea how deep her involvement went, but I needed answers. She was the one who kept skirting around the issues, the one who kept throwing me off with her cryptic statements. That night, I found myself standing at the edge of the kitchen, watching as Lisa moved between the counters with practiced ease. I had to get to the truth. If there was a way to stop whatever was coming, this was my chance. I walked into the kitchen, my heart hammering in my chest. I didn't know what to expect, but the look in Lisa's eyes when she saw me made me pause. It was a mixture of surprise and something else. Fear? Regret? I couldn't quite read it, but it was enough to make my pulse race. "Lisa," I said, trying to study my voice. "We need to talk. About everything." She put down the knife she was holding and slowly turned to face me. "About what, Sarah? What's going on with you?" I walked toward her, my eyes locked on hers. "I know something's going on. I've seen it, heard it, felt it." She took a deep breath, glancing away briefly, almost as if she was deciding whether to run or tell the truth. Finally, she spoke, her voice quieter than usual. "Look, Sarah," she began, her voice low, almost apologetic. "I never wanted you to get caught up in this. None of us did. But we don't have much time now." My heart dropped. Caught up in this? What was she talking about? Caught up in what? I asked, a lump forming in my throat. She hesitated for a moment, then stepped closer, lowering her voice. "It's about the farm, about the inheritance. You need to understand, Sarah, it's not just about the property." There's something much darker going on. She was stalling. I could tell by the way she was pacing, the way her fingers fidgeted with her bracelet. This wasn't the Lisa I knew, the confident, composed woman who never showed fear. She was terrified, and that made my stomach churn. "Lisa, please, just tell me what's going on," I urged, my voice shaking now. She stopped, her face pale. "There's been a plan to take the farm. And not just the farm. We've been working with some investors, developers, people who have been eyeing the property for years." I could barely catch my breath. "You're working with them?" I whispered, unable to believe what I was hearing. Lisa nodded slowly. "At first, it was just about getting control of the land. It's worth a lot of money, Sarah. We were all going to be set for life. But the deeper we got into it, the more dangerous it became. People started getting desperate. People with power. And now, it's no longer just about money." I felt the floor beneath me give way. "What are you saying? Who's behind this?" Lisa took a step back, glancing nervously at the door. "It's too late now. You've been dragged into something you don't understand. The danger isn't just about losing the farm. It's about who will stop at nothing to control it, and who will kill to keep it." I stood there, unable to speak. The room felt too small. My breath was coming in sharp bursts, and my hands were shaking. Who could possibly want to kill for something as simple as a farm? But Lisa's words hung in the air like a death sentence. "They're willing to do anything," she whispered again, her voice barely audible. "I thought it was just business, Sarah. But now, I don't know who to trust anymore. I've seen things. I've heard things that I shouldn't have. And I know now that we're all involved. Whether we like it or not, we're in this until the end, and there's no turning back." My mind spun, trying to process everything. This wasn't just about the farm anymore. This was about something far more dangerous. But I didn't know how deep the rabbit hole went, or how far Lisa would go to protect herself. "How do you know all this?" I asked, my voice strained. Lisa swallowed hard. "I've been working with the developers, Sarah, but I didn't know how far they'd go. They're not just businessmen. They have ties to people you wouldn't want to meet, people with power, people who run this town." Suddenly, everything felt like it was closing in on me. The walls of the house seemed too tight, the air too thin. The secrets that had been bubbling beneath the surface for years were coming to light, and the truth was worse than I could ever have imagined. Lisa's face was now full of regret. She whispered, "I'm sorry, Sarah, but I don't know if we can get out of this. The deal is done. They're not going to let us walk away." I felt sick to my stomach. "What are you saying? They're going to kill us?" Lisa hesitated, then nodded. "If they have to. But that's not the worst of it." I stared at her, my mind reeling. What could possibly be worse than death? "The truth is," Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible now, "is that someone in this house is already working with them. Someone you trust. And if you don't act fast, they'll be the one who gets you killed." My blood ran cold. I turned to look at the doorway, as if expecting someone to be standing there, watching us. But no one was there. The house was eerily quiet. Before I could ask any more, I heard footsteps approaching the kitchen. My heart dropped into my stomach. I turned just in time to see Ben standing in the doorway, his face unreadable. He said, I think it's time we all had a little chat. I felt the air leave my lungs. Was he the one working with them? Was Ben the traitor? And if that was true, then everything Lisa had said, everything I had been afraid of, was worse than I thought. This was no longer just a family reunion. It was the beginning of something much darker. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape it. What do you think? Is Ben really involved, or is there someone else behind this all? Who can Sarah trust now? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. The next chapter uncovers even more shocking twists you won't want to miss. Stay tuned because things are about to get real. I thought I knew my family, but the moment Ben spoke, I realized I didn't know anything anymore. The tension in the kitchen was suffocating. Lisa's words still echoed in my mind. Someone you trust is already working with them. I looked at Ben, standing in the doorway, his posture casual, but his eyes held something I couldn't quite place. His calm demeanor seemed at odds with the storm raging inside of me. "What's going on, Ben?" I asked, my voice shaky. I didn't want to accuse him without knowing, but the words from Lisa were like a weight on my chest. The thought that one of my own could betray me, betray our family, made me feel like I was drowning. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped into the kitchen and closed the door behind him. The click of the latch felt like a signal for the conversation that was about to unfold. I tried to steady my breathing, but it felt like my lungs were refusing to work properly. I thought I was alone in this, but what I learned from Ruth changed everything I thought I knew about my family. The weight of everything that had happened so far was too much to bear. Betrayal, manipulation, and greed. It was like a heavy fog had descended on my life, and I couldn't see through it anymore. I kept replaying Ben's words in my head. There's no way out. We're all in this. I didn't want to believe him, but deep down, I knew he was right. The farm, the one place that had always felt like home, was slipping out of my grasp, piece by piece. I couldn't do this on my own. I needed someone who understood the darkness I was facing, someone who had been around long enough to know the truth. That's when I thought of Ruth. Ruth was the family matriarch, the one who had held everything together after Mabel passed. She had seen it all, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Ruth had always been a calming presence, someone I could rely on for advice. But recently, she had been more distant, more reserved. It was as if she knew something she wasn't telling me. I knew it was time to speak with her. If anyone had the answers, it was Ruth. I found Ruth sitting alone on the porch, staring out at the farm. The light from the porch lamp cast a soft glow on her face, but there was a weariness in her eyes that I hadn't noticed before. She looked up as I approached, offering a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sarah, what brings you out here?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to start, but I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. Not anymore. "Ruth," I said, my voice steady, but there was a tremor beneath it. "Ruth, I need your help. I need to know the truth." She looked at me for a long moment, as if weighing her options. Then, with a heavy sigh, she gestured for me to sit beside her. "I've always tried to protect you, Sarah, but you're right. You need to know what's really going on. The truth, it's not easy to hear." I sat down next to her, feeling the weight of her words already settling in my chest. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? What's really happening here? Who's behind all of this?" Ruth's gaze hardened, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You wouldn't have believed me. None of us knew how deep the corruption went, but I see it now. I see how everything has been manipulated." Ruth paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts before continuing. "It started with the land. The developers, they've been targeting this family for years. But what you don't know is that some of us, some of your family, were complicit in it." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean? Who? Who in our family would betray us like that?" Ruth's eyes flickered with a mix of regret and resignation. "Your Uncle Ben. He wasn't just a quiet participant. He was a key player. He helped broker the deal with the developers. And Lisa, well, she's not as innocent as she pretends to be. They've all been involved for a long time. But it wasn't just about money. It was about power, control." The room felt like it was spinning. I had always trusted Ben, trusted my family. But now everything I knew was falling apart. "You're telling me they've been planning this for years? What is their end game?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ruth nodded slowly. "They want the farm, Sarah. But they want more than that. They want the control that comes with owning this land, this family. They want to rewrite the history of Mabel's legacy, and they won't stop until they have it all." I sat in stunned silence, trying to process her words. The betrayal stung more than I could ever have imagined. But what Ruth said next struck me even harder. "There's something else, Sarah," Ruth continued, her voice barely audible. "Something that has to do with the farm's history, a secret your mother left behind, and one that the developers have been searching for." My stomach dropped. "A secret? What do you mean?" Ruth's face grew even more solemn. "Your mother knew about the value of this land. She knew what it was worth, but more importantly, she knew what it contained. There's something hidden here, something that could change everything." I shook my head, struggling to understand. "But what is it, Ruth? What's hidden here? Why didn't she tell me? Why didn't anyone say anything?" Ruth's eyes grew distant as she stared into the darkness. She wanted to protect you. She thought you were too young, too innocent to know the truth. But now, I fear it's too late. The gravity of her words hit me like a physical blow. My mother knew something that could change everything. And it was buried here, on this land that was slipping through our fingers. "What is it?" I asked, my voice shaking. Ruth hesitated, then finally spoke, her voice low and trembling. "It's not just a piece of land, Sarah. It's a treasure. A legacy that could change the future of your family. But it's more than that. The developers, they're not just after the farm. They're after the key to the secret your mother left behind, and they'll stop at nothing to get it." I felt a chill run down my spine. Ruth's words lingered in the air like a heavy fog. What was hidden here? What did my mother know that could change everything, and why had she kept it from me? I couldn't let this go. I couldn't just sit back and let my family be torn apart by greed and manipulation. I had to find out what was really going on. Ruth continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "The developers, they've been working with someone inside the family, someone you wouldn't expect." I felt my stomach twist. Who? Who's been working with them? She shook her head, her eyes filled with sadness. "I don't know, but they've been watching you, Sarah. They know you're getting close to the truth, and they'll do anything to stop you." I stood up, feeling a surge of anger and fear. What do I do now? How do I stop them? Ruth looked at me, her eyes filled with concern. "You can't do this alone, Sarah. You'll need help. You'll need to be smart, and you'll need to trust the right people." But who could I trust? Ben? Lisa? The family members I thought I knew? Or was it time to trust someone else? Someone outside the family? Just as I was about to ask Ruth what I should do next, the sound of footsteps interrupted us. I turned, my heart skipping a beat as I saw Lisa standing in the doorway, her face pale and filled with urgency. "We need to talk," she said, her voice tight with fear. I could feel my heart racing. What was she here for? Had she heard everything Ruth had said? Was she going to make things worse? Or was this the moment when I finally got the answers I needed? "Sarah, it's worse than you think," Lisa continued, stepping into the room. "They know we're onto them. They're going to make their move tonight. What do you think is going to happen? Is Lisa telling the truth? What should Sarah do next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss the shocking twist in the next chapter. Things are heating up fast." The moment I stepped into the barn, I knew things were about to spiral out of control. But what I found inside was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating, as I stood there on the porch, staring at the barn where the rest of my family had gathered. The evening was unnaturally quiet. No laughter, no casual chatter, just the rustling of the wind through the trees. I had to go. I couldn't sit around waiting for things to implode. If there was any hope of stopping the developers from taking everything, it had to start now. Ben, Lisa, Ruth, they all knew something, and it was time for me to figure out just how deep the lies went. I had to confront them. No more games. But I couldn't face it alone. I wasn't ready to walk in there blind, not without knowing exactly what was at stake. I grabbed the flashlight I kept by the door and walked toward the barn. My heart was racing, the steady thud of my footsteps on the gravel sounding louder than usual. The closer I got, the more nervous I became. Was I about to walk into a trap? Was the confrontation I had been avoiding going to be worse than I ever could have imagined? But I couldn't back down now. The fate of the farm and the future of my family depended on what happened next. The barn doors creaked as I pushed them open, the smell of hay and wood filling my nose. It was dark inside, only dimly lit by the weak glow of a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. I could make out the shapes of old farming tools and the dusty remnants of Mabel's past life. But it wasn't the barn's contents that held my attention. It was the people inside. Ben was standing in the corner, his back to me, talking to someone I didn't recognize. The man's silhouette was tall and broad, with a rough, weathered appearance. His face was hidden in the shadows, But the fact that he was here in the barn, in the middle of this family drama, made my skin crawl. I took a slow step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. Ben hadn't heard me yet, but the stranger certainly had. His head turned toward me with a swift movement, his eyes glinting in the low light. Ben called to me, his voice flat, as if he had been expecting me. "We need to talk." I stood frozen for a moment. There was something about the way he said it that made my stomach churn. My instinct screamed at me to turn around and leave, but I didn't. I couldn't. I had come too far to back out now. "I'm listening," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the overwhelming fear rising within me. Ben stepped forward, motioning for the stranger to step back. "This is Garrett. He's the one I've been working with." I nodded slowly, trying to keep my face neutral, though inside I was panicking. The man didn't look like anyone I would trust. He looked like trouble wrapped in a tattered jacket. "Garrett, huh?" I said, my voice cold. "What's this all about, Ben? You've been working with him all along?" Ben didn't look at me. Instead, he stared at the ground, his jaw tightening. "It's more complicated than you think, Sarah. But it's not just about the farm anymore. We're dealing with people who have real power, people who can make things happen, people who don't care about family, only about control." Garrett stepped forward then, his dark eyes locking with mine. He wasn't smiling, but there was something about the way he stood that made it clear that he wasn't here to negotiate. He was here for something more. "Your family doesn't know who they're dealing with," Garrett said. "You think this is just about some land deal, don't you? You think it's just about taking over the farm, but it's not. It's about setting a precedent. We're making sure no one can touch what's ours, and if we have to take out a few obstacles along the way, so be it." I took a step back, my pulse quickening. "Obstacles? What the hell are you talking about? You're threatening my family. All of this is about power and control?" Ben shifted uncomfortably, but Garrett didn't flinch. "That's right," Garrett said coldly. "But it's not just about your family, Sarah. It's the whole town. The land here is worth more than you can imagine, and those who control it control everything." A sickening realization hit me. They weren't just after the farm. They were after more, and my family was caught in the middle of it. "Why don't you join us, Sarah?" Garrett said, his voice smooth but edged with danger. "You've seen what's happening. You've heard the whispers. You're not a fool. You know what we're after. If you're smart, you'll realize that this is your chance to get ahead. We can make you rich, powerful. All you have to do is stop fighting us." I felt my stomach churn. My blood ran cold. "You think I'll just join you?" I spat, my voice rising. "You think I'll turn my back on everything my family has fought for?" Ben stepped forward, his face tight with frustration. "Sarah, listen, you don't understand. This is bigger than you think. If you don't help us, they'll come for you next. You're not safe here anymore." Garrett's smile widened, but it wasn't comforting. It was the kind of smile you give when you know you've already won. "We're giving you a choice, Sarah," Garrett said. "We can make this easy, but you have to make the right decision. You can either keep fighting and watch everything you love get destroyed, or you can join us and secure your future." I looked from Ben to Garrett, trying to process what they were saying. My heart was racing, my mind reeling. These weren't just threats anymore. They were promises, dangerous promises that I knew could ruin everything. I couldn't stand there any longer. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a warning that they would stop at nothing to get what they wanted, and they weren't going to spare anyone in their way. I took a deep breath and straightened up. "I'm not afraid of you, Garrett," I said, my voice steady but filled with defiance. "You've threatened my family, you've lied to me, but I will not sit back and let you destroy everything we've worked for. You can't have this land. You can't have what belongs to us." Garrett's expression shifted, his lips tightening. "You don't know who you're dealing with. You can't fight us, Sarah. You'll lose." "I'd rather lose than give in to people like you," I said, my voice shaking but filled with defiance. Ben finally spoke, his voice softer than before. "Sarah, you have to understand, it's not just about the farm anymore. There's nothing left for you here. You're out of your depth." I shook my head. "You're wrong. There's everything left for me here. My family, my history. I'm not backing down. Not now, not ever. I turned to leave, the weight of the confrontation pressing down on me. But as I walked toward the door, I could hear Garrett's voice again, low and threatening. We'll see how long your resolve lasts, Sarah. You can't hide forever. The barn door slammed shut behind me as I walked into the night, but I wasn't running anymore. I was standing my ground, and I wasn't going to win. As I stepped outside, a voice called from behind me. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Sarah, wait, Ben's voice echoed in the dark. I turned, my pulse racing. What is it, Ben? He stepped forward, his face serious. I made a mistake. You're right. They're dangerous, but they're not the only ones. I've been working with them, but I don't want to anymore. It's not too late to fix this. We can still stop them. I stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in. Could I trust him? Could he really help me now, or was this just another lie? The uncertainty clawed at me, but I knew one thing for sure. It wasn't over yet. The more I uncovered, the more I realized nothing was what it seemed, and the closer I got to the truth, the more dangerous it became. The night after the showdown at the barn, things grew even darker. Ben's sudden confession, was it genuine? Or was he simply trying to save his own skin? Every step I took, every conversation I had, only brought more questions, more uncertainty. I couldn't trust anyone anymore. Not fully. Ben's involvement with Garrett, the developers, and the other secrets my family had been hiding, it was a web of lies so tangled I couldn't see the truth anymore. But I had no choice but to keep pushing forward. There was no turning back now. Ruth's warning echoed in my mind. They know you're getting close to the truth. And it wasn't just about the farm anymore. It was about power, control, and a legacy that I wasn't sure anyone was prepared to handle. I had to confront the real enemy, the one who wasn't hiding in the shadows, but was lurking in plain sight. Whoever was behind the developers wasn't just after land. They were after something much more dangerous. And the more I uncovered, the closer I came to unraveling the full scope of the danger that lay ahead. It felt like the walls were closing in, but I couldn't stop. The fear was unbearable, but so was the need for answers. I needed to make a decision. Should I confront Ben again, or should I take the information I'd gathered and confront Lisa? Something told me she wasn't as innocent as she had been pretending to be. The distant look in her eyes, the way she avoided certain conversations, it was all adding up to something I wasn't prepared to face. I decided to go to Lisa's apartment. If I could get her alone, maybe I could finally get the truth out of her. After all, she was part of this whole scheme, right? But was she just a pawn, or was she a willing participant? The drive to her apartment felt longer than it should have. My mind raced with possibilities. Could she help me? Or had she already sold out to the developers? I had to be prepared for whatever I might find. I pulled up to the apartment complex and parked a little further away than usual, trying to avoid being noticed. The last thing I wanted was for her to see me coming and have the chance to cover up whatever she was hiding. I walked toward the building, my nerves creeping in. Each step felt heavier than the last. I couldn't afford to make a mistake, not this time. As I approached her door, I paused. There was a faint light coming from inside. Lisa was home, but there was something strange about the way the door was slightly ajar. I wasn't sure if I should knock or just walk in, but I knew this moment was crucial. Whatever I found behind that door would be the tipping point. I pushed the door open just a crack, and to my surprise, it wasn't locked. My heart was pounding in my chest as I slipped inside. "Lisa?" I called softly, my voice barely above a whisper. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. No sounds of movement, no rustling. I stepped further in, and my eyes were drawn to the desk where Lisa usually kept her papers. But today, it was covered in something else. Stacks of paperwork, envelopes, and a few large files all neatly arranged. As I moved closer, I saw the words "development agreement" written across one of the documents. My stomach twisted. The same documents I had seen at the barn, the same deal that Ben and Garrett were discussing. I couldn't believe it. Lisa had been in on it from the beginning. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" Lisa's voice startled me, and I turned around quickly to find her standing in the doorway. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breath. "What is all this, Lisa? Why are you keeping these documents?" She looked at me for a long moment, her face pale. "It's not what you think," she said, but there was a desperation in her voice, an attempt to cover up the truth. I stepped toward her, my voice rising. "The plan? What plan, Lisa? The one where you betray your family for money?" Her eyes flickered with guilt, but she quickly hid it. "It wasn't supposed to go this far, Sarah. I never wanted you involved, but you don't understand. If we don't do this, everything we've worked for will be destroyed. The developers." I interrupted her, my anger flaring. "You are the destruction, Lisa. You've sold us all out." She took a deep breath, and for a moment I thought she might break down. But instead she stood there, silent. Just as I was about to press her for more answers, the sound of footsteps outside the door stopped me in my tracks. Someone was coming and I couldn't risk being caught. I turned to Lisa. "Is someone else here?" I asked, my voice low, trying not to sound panicked. Lisa's face froze, her eyes darting toward the door. It's... Before she could finish, the door swung open, and to my shock, Ruth stepped into the room. "Sarah," she said softly, her eyes filled with something I couldn't place. My heart stopped. Ruth? What was she doing here? I glanced between her and Lisa, my mind racing. It felt like everything was crashing down around me. The lies, the betrayal. Everything I thought I knew about my family was unraveling, and now Ruth was here. Was she part of this too? I couldn't breathe. I had been trying to figure out who I could trust, but I never expected Ruth to be involved. "Ruth," I whispered, my voice trembling. "What's going on? Why are you here?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she closed the door behind her, her expression unreadable. "Sarah, I think it's time we talk." My mind raced as Ruth's words hit me like a hammer. Join them? Join them? But before I could say anything, I saw something in Ruth's hand, something that made my blood run cold. A stack of documents, just like the ones I had seen earlier, but these were different. They weren't just about the farm. They were about me. My name was on every page. "What are these?" I demanded, my voice shaking with disbelief. Ruth stepped closer, her eyes hardening. "You don't have a choice anymore, Sarah. You've been drawn into something bigger than you, bigger than your family, and now you either join us or you become part of the past." I took a step back, my heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" But before she could answer, the door swung open again. I thought I knew who to trust, but in that moment, as Ruth's secrets spilled out, I realized I'd been wrong about everything. My mind was spinning as Ruth stood there, her eyes locked onto mine with a cold intensity. She had always been the one I trusted, the one who kept everything together after Mabel passed. But now, it was clear. The person I had relied on the most had been keeping the darkest secrets of all. The documents in her hand weren't just about the farm. They were about me. My name was written on every page, but it wasn't just my name. It was about a plan, a deal, and a future I had no idea I was part of. "Ruth," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What is all this? What have you been hiding from me?" She didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped closer, her gaze unwaveringly.